guys, it's Leo from Team Ragnarok again, and today I'll be showing you another deck profile, this time of my Baromagnes deck from DBT01. Right, let's get into it. Okay, we'll start off with our ride deck. We have our starter, Uncanny Burning. When rode upon, when you go second, you draw a card. Pretty standard for all of the Overdress starters now. It doesn't matter which one you play. And our grade 1 is Deep Sonica. When placed on the Vanguard, you can soul charge 1, and then on the rear guard, during your turn, if your soul has 10 or more cards, this unit gains 10,000 power. So it allows him to be an 18k beta, which is pretty good. We have got grade 2, Electro Spartan. Doesn't have an on-play skill on Vanguard. However, he does have a when rode on skill, which is when you ride upon it with Massive Gravity Baromagnes, you can put a card from your hand as soul, draw a card, and soul charge 1. Advancing your soul by 2 cards is pretty good for this deck. And then his rear guard skill, when placed on rear guard, you can counterblast 1 and soul charge 2. It's pretty important to do that because it worked towards our grade 3 skills, which is Massive Gravity Baromagnes. And what he does is, on attack, you can counterblast 1, perform all of the following according to number of cards in your soul. So when there's 5 or more in the soul, you draw a card. When there's 10 or more in the soul, this unit gains 10,000 power plus 1 critical until the end of the battle. And then when there's 15 or more, both you and your opponent put all your rear guards into soul. And then you can call out 2 units from your soul and they both gain 10,000 power. So essentially he's swing saw 23,000 unboosted, and when you have 15 in soul, you essentially have a board wipe into a multi-attack, which is really strong in my opinion. But we'll go into the main deck with our 1 additional copy of Baromagnes. I'll explain the reasoning behind my ratios and everything after I give you the list. We have 4 copies of Phantasma Magician Curtis. When placed on rear guard, if your Vanguard is Baromagnes, you soul charge 2. Again, just really strong soul charge ability. If your soul has 10 or more cards, you can counterblast 2, and all of your front row rear guards gain, well, front row units even, not rear guards, my bad, gain 5,000 power until end of turn. Doesn't really come out that often, to be honest. We have 2 copies of Time Fishing Gear Colossus. When placed on rear guard, soul charge 1, and if you're in Final Rush, you can counterblast 1, and you'll gain 15,000 until end of turn. So obviously I can't be in Final Rush because I'm not playing Bruce, but it's just mainly for soul charge skill. 2 copies of Cruel You Insects. You pay this order with counterblast 1. You then soul charge 1, choose one of your units, it gains 10,000 power until end of turn for every 5 cards in your soul. If your soul has 10 or more cards, you draw a card. In the grade 2s, we have 3 copies of Electro Spartan. You know what he does, as we saw him in the ride deck. And we have our 4 copies of Selfish Engraver. When this unit attack hits, you soul charge 1. At the end of the battle, it attacked. If your soul has 10 or more cards, you can move it into the soul and countercharge 1. Really good soul charging skills there. Grade 1s, we have 2 more copies of Deep Sonica. That's all there is for those. We have 4 copies of Steam Battler Gungaram. When placed on the rear guard, you can soul charge 1, and then act once per turn. You can soul blast 3 to draw a card. We have then 4 copies of the PG from the set, which is when placed in Guardian Circle, one of your units cannot be hit until the end of battle. If your hand has 2 or more cards, you can choose a card from your hand. Well, you have to choose a card from your hand to discard it. What that means is, basically, if you have only 2 cards in your hand, and you drop a PG to guard, and, well, the PG being one of them, you don't have to discard, because at that point you only have 1 card in your hand. We have, however, 4 copies of Brother Soul, the order from the start deck, which is just on play soul charge 2. Into triggers, we have 4 copies of our heal trigger, 3 copies of our draw trigger, 8 criticals, and of course we are playing our Dark States over trigger. If you guys will stay tuned, I will now explain the reasoning between all the ratios in this deck. Alright guys, welcome to the explanation portion of this video where I will explain some of the choices and ratios behind this deck. So, the one Baromagnes, we are only playing one in the main deck because I don't see Persona Ride as being crucial for this deck. Having it is really nice. So, having only one additional copy in the deck basically means you can play more Soul Charge cards for those slots that you would play the other two in. But at the same time, you can still have that high roll potential if you draw into this. We have our 4, Phantasma Magician Curtis. This is just on play Soul Charge 2. Not really much explaining needed there. The Time Fishing Gear Colossus. Like, pretty obviously I cannot use the second half of the skill to gain 15,000. However, being a grade 3 13k body that can Soul Charge 1 on place, pretty good to be honest, because it's able to hit without boosters, and of course our 2 copies of Crawl You Insects. This is a good order, but it's not something I would look to actively play every turn, because if I'm looking to hit the 15 soul boundary, there's just other orders I'd play, and this doesn't really do too much in the early game for you unless you really have built up a massive soul. We will now move into grade 2s. 3 Electro Spartan, can blast 1 Soul Charge 2 on rearguard. Again, not really much to say here, since the deck doesn't really have anything much better to play. Selfish Engraver at 4. This is just the best grade 2 that Baromagnes has access to, because at maximum potential, this is a +2 to soul. There are times where, I was at 13 soul, but I only had 1 engraver and no other soul charges. I would attack a rearguard with this, and since it hit, after no guarded, I soul charge 1 and then move it into soul as well, hitting the 15. Really useful. Not much else I can complain about for that. We're playing only 2 Deep Sonica. As I mentioned earlier, this doesn't really do much on rearguard since it doesn't have a soul charge skill, but it is an 18k beta, so when you call it out of Baromagnes, it becomes 28. So if you call 2 copies, you rebuild 2 lanes of 28,000 that need to be guarded, essentially. 4 of Gungam Ram, on play Soul Charge 1. It's just helping you get to the boundary of 15 faster. The Soul Blast 3 draw a card skill rarely comes up. It's mostly there if you're against some control decks and you manage to build up enough soul anyway. You can just draw cards to replace your board with. Reclusal Hate. It's just PG, not much to say. The new skills are pretty useful for this deck because you don't generate a huge hand, so sometimes you can just drop the 1 card PG and be done with it. And then Brother's Soul, I think it's the best order for this deck because it's just straight up Soul Charge 2, can be played in the early game, no cost or anything, it's just straight up there. We then have our 4 heals. Again, no explaining needed. 3 draws. I opted to play draws over fronts in this deck, even though it really soul charges a lot, mainly because I want to be able to see my soul charge cards, as soon as possible. So say if I was to damage check a front trigger, that would not lead me to see a soul charge card. If I damage this gives me a better chance of seeing it. And then our 8 crits. As you can see, this deck is pretty aggro. You want to be able to end the game as fast as possible. It's not a deck you want to stall out games with. You want to hit the 15 as soon as you can, and then just be able to end the game. And of course our Dark State's over trigger. So playing this over the Cray Elemental one, because all the Cray Elemental one gives you is 100 million to 2 lanes. So most likely if they perfect guarded your Vanguard, you're going to give the 100 million to 2 rear guards. However, those rear guards are normally at numbers where they're perfect guarded or just taken anyway, so it doesn't really add too much of that to this deck. But if I manage to hit this early on, it adds a whole lot of pressure and increases my win rate by a lot, because its ability to give my Vanguard 10,000 power and 1 critical until the end of the fight is just really strong. And then thank you guys for watching this. Thank you guys for watching, but before I end the video, I just want to give a shout out to my friend Bon, who helped me make this list. Like, wouldn't have been really possible to make this list work without him, to be honest. He's one of the better Dark regular players that I know. So he knows a lot about like how to balance the ratio of soul charge to like actual good cards in your deck. But thank you guys for watching, and hopefully we can have some gameplay videos for you in the near future, so you can see this deck and the other Overdress decks we built in action. See you guys next time.